on CHUM FM, Stereo 104.
1, 2.
Endless Beginnings, Part 6, The Sound at a Rock Concert. We are on the floor at Massey Hall, the afternoon on the recent Billy Preston concert. The sound men are feverishly at work, taking time and patience to join hundreds of cables to hundreds of sockets, setting up microphones, checking monitor speakers, getting everything perfect for the artist and the audience that'll come in later. And it is the people who work all afternoon who make the sound right. The mixing man at the actual concert has a part too, but he has to have perfection from which to work. Which brings us to a self-styled typical sound man setting up in the afternoon. A man named Bill Haney, and how he got this thankless job in the first place.
Well, I walked into the Tycho Brahe office about 3 days before the tour was going to start, and they said, "You want to do Billy Preston?" I said, "No, okay."
And what is Tycho Brahe?
That's the sound company that owns all this equipment. He rents the system from them.
And how many tours does Tycho Brahe do at the same time? Or do they just do one? Or?
They have about 6 systems.
And they just rent them out to the bands.
Right.
Okay, now why would Billy Preston want this system?
Well, he's used Tycho Brahe for about a long time, several years, and as far as he's concerned, it's the only sound system and company worth using in the country.
What other tours you done?
Everything from Alice Cooper, Deep Purple, The Faces, Stones, Jimi Hendrix, all that kind of stuff.
How much equipment? Who decided that? The sound system? Did you decide how much you needed, or?
Probably Bruce Wayne, who's the road manager. He sort of has equipment control, of the overall layout. He's paying for the system, so he just decided how many columns he wanted, and they, worked it out together.
1, 2.
And here they are checking the monitor speakers again. But what are monitor speakers anyway? Here's a guy who uses them. Ashley Holt, one of the singers with Rick Wakeman's tour.
We all see in front of the singers and musicians on the stage these little boxes that contain speakers. They're called monitors, and what are they used for?
Mainly to hear your voice before it actually goes out into the auditorium, so that you actually get the true voice back. But sometimes it doesn't work that well,
There's a lot of contention about monitors. You hear guys hollering, "Hey, more monitors," and stuff like that. What is that about?
Basically, you need to hear yourself louder across the top of the band or the orchestra, regardless. It can go very soft. Because there's a separate mix on monitors on stage.
What do you get in yours, for example?
I just get Gary and myself.
That's it.
That's the 2 singers, yeah.
And how do you get your pitch?
Just from the band and Rick. Rick has separate monitors on stage which I can hear across. But basically all I need to get from Gary is the closeness in harmony, and myself, obviously, to hear,
I think maybe it's not understood that monitors are used to keep you on key.
Basically, yes. It's like a giant set of headphones, I don't know if people realise that, but that's how it should be. It's just a giant set of head cans, which help you pitch, next to you, really, because your voice goes so quickly, you tend to lose it a bit, Well,
you can't hear much up there, can you? Without the monitors, you can't hear anything for the stuff around you.
No, it gets very overpowering. Vocals get lost completely.
And so the speaker boxes are used, the monitors, and appreciated. But working with things electric all the time has its hazards. The world has lost a fair number of musicians from electric shock. Roy Clare runs the respected Clare Brothers sound company of the U.S.
First of all, the situations where people are getting electrocuted are usually those pertaining to England and other countries which use 220 volts, whereas in America we use 110, and people are less apt to get killed than they are to get shocked. And as far as prevention is concerned, what we do is ground everything so that a musician, when he touches a microphone, doesn't ground himself out on stage, but it's already grounded, and he doesn't get shocked. But like I say,
How does the hazard originate in the first place? Where does it come from?
if, for example, a guitar amplifier has 110 volts as a supply, which it always does, and the ground wire comes off. For example, you have one side is 110, the other side is ground, and the potential between the two is 110 volts. Okay. Now, if the ground wire comes off, the amplifier can still work, but it usually is working not half, you can't say half, but because of a ground that it picks up through the floor or elsewhere. So when he goes up and touches a microphone stand and is holding on to his wires on his guitar, he's the best ground. So he's establishing the current or the flow of current. So the current is going from him
Back to ground.
right. And that's why they get shocked. It's as simple as that. It's just a faulty 110 volt system in his instrument. Now, like I say, in England, where it's 220, it's a lot more severe.
But nevertheless, the North American hydro system still can be lethal. Tomorrow night on this series, why truck drivers never get laid. Larry Wilson for a report.